Canon Alberic's scrapbook may have been inspired by M.R. James's travels in France, but it drew on a lifetime of experience. The roots of Monty's stories lie in his childhood in England, when his fascination with history and the supernatural was shaped. Montague Rhodes James was born in 1862, and when he was 3, his family moved to Great Livermere in Suffolk. There's a mysterious, remote atmosphere here. Even in the 19th century, it must have felt a place apart from the rest of England. The family came here when Monty's father, Herbert James, was appointed as the local Anglican priest. What kind of a congregation and a parish did Herbert James inherit?
Well, he'd encountered quite a diverse group of people who were inherently superstitious. And Herbert wrote about his concern at the end of the 19th century with all the technological innovations there have been. We've still got people who seek out the wise man or woman from the village and prefer this esoteric superstition, that he called it, to real religion. It was a rural agricultural community, and most of the people would have been working on the land here at the time. And the land involves both farmland, which would have been tilled by horses, which is effectively behind you, and behind me there would have been the land we know as the Brecks, the Breckland, which is more like open moorland, where they've kept rabbits and sheep. And in fact, the Breckland as we know it today is the nearest thing England has to a desert. So we're living on the margins. And so wherever you've got a margin between two types of culture and two types of landscape, you often get a deeper awareness of the supernatural and the spiritual.
Monty would later draw on the area's history and superstitions in his writing. But it's easy to imagine how the powerful atmosphere here might have fed his boyhood imagination, especially when combined with the piety and religious devotion that characterised family life at the Great Livermere Rectory.
The James household was a devout one, but it was also close and loving, and remained so. Monty's letters throughout his life are open and affectionate. All that religion, though, does seem to have filled Monty's childhood imagination with some quite extraordinary visions.
For a time, young Monty was preoccupied with thoughts of fiery apocalypses and days of judgment. And although Monty never claimed his tales were inspired by personal experiences of the supernatural, a short work published after his death suggests that on one occasion he may have glimpsed a frightening figure in the rectory grounds.
A face was looking my way. Malevolent, I thought, and think it was. And from just above the eyes, the white border of a linen drapery hung down from the brows. I fled. But at what seemed like a safe distance within my own precincts, I could not but halt and look back. There was no white thing framed in the hole in the gate, but there was a draped form shambling off through the trees.
Strange apparitions apart, Monty's childhood appears to have been a very happy one. He began his education at home, learning Latin and Greek from his father and French from his mother. His parents encouraged a lifelong love of learning in him, but eventually his schooling had to continue elsewhere.
Monty seems to have been someone with a keen sense of place, and this would be a theme in both his work and his life. He would become deeply attached to a small number of locations. So when he had to leave Great Livermere at the age of 11 to go to prep school in London, the wrench was profound.
It's perhaps no coincidence that the next story Monty published after Canon Alberic centres on an 11-year-old orphan boy.